Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to explore the fascinating world of Canadian 1-cent coins, also known as Canadian pennies, and why so many of them are far more valuable than most people realize. If you have old Canadian 1-cent coins lying around in jars, tucked in drawers, or passed down from family, you might be holding a rare treasure worth much more than a single-cent. Collectors all over the world search for specific Canadian pennies with rare dates, unique minting errors, and historical designs that make them incredibly collectible. That means your ordinary-looking coin could actually be worth real money. I'll be breaking down the details you need to know, so make sure you stay with me and watch this video all the way through, because every second will give you insights into which coins are valuable and why. And before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss my future videos on rare and collectible coins that could be hiding in your pocket change. Let's get started. First up, the 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin is one of those coins that continues to spark curiosity among collectors, history lovers, and anyone fascinated by the story behind small change. At first glance, the 1996 Canadian penny might look like an ordinary coin, but when you start to look deeper, you realize just how much value and significance can be hidden inside a single cent. In this video, we're going to explore everything about the 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin, why it is considered valuable, and why collectors continue to search for it even today. Make sure you stay with me until the very end, because there are important details about rarity, history, and collecting potential that you do not want to miss. The 1996 Canadian penny features the classic design that has become iconic in Canadian coinage. On the obverse, we find the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Dora de Pettery Hunt, which had been in use during that period. On the reverse, you'll see the familiar maple leaf design created by George Kruger Gray, a design that had appeared on Canadian 1-cent coins since 1937. By 1996, this maple leaf reverse had become a true national symbol, and it connected Canadians to their history every time they held a penny. But beyond its design, the 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin is valuable because it represents a time when the penny was still circulating heavily in Canada, long before its eventual discontinuation in 2012. When you think about value in coins, there are different aspects that collectors consider. The 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin can be valuable because of its mintage numbers, its condition, and in some cases, its rarity in higher grades. Millions were struck, but not all of them survived in collectible condition. Circulated examples are very common, but uncirculated coins, brilliant condition coins, and those with special characteristics are where the real collector value lies. Many coin collectors specifically hunt for the 1996 Canadian penny because it represents the last decade of full-scale penny production before changes in materials and eventual phase-out. Another thing that makes the 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin valuable is the metal content. In 1996, these coins were still made of bronze-plated zinc or bronze-plated steel, depending on the minting batches. These variations in composition are something collectors pay attention to, because over the years Canada shifted away from traditional bronze to more cost-effective metals. This means the 1996 coin stands right in the middle of these transitions, making it an interesting year to study. If you're holding onto one of these coins, it's worth examining carefully, because small details can make a big difference in collector value. Collectors also pay attention to errors, varieties, and striking issues. A 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin with a doubling on the date, minting errors, or unusual die varieties can be far more valuable than the regular strike. These error coins often bring excitement to the market because they are scarce, and collectors love unique pieces that stand out from the millions of standard coins. This is one of the key reasons why the 1996 Canadian penny can be considered valuable, because even among common coins, rare varieties exist. The history of the Canadian penny also adds to the overall story of the 1996 coin. The Canadian 1-cent coin was first introduced in 1858, and for over a century it became a symbol of everyday life. By the 1990s, inflation had already reduced the purchasing power of the penny, but it still held sentimental and cultural importance. The 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin was minted during a time when Canada was producing billions of cents each decade, but only a fraction of those have been preserved by collectors. Today, when we look back, the 1996 penny is part of that last chapter in the story of Canadian cents before the denomination disappeared entirely. What makes the 1996 Canadian penny so fascinating is that it bridges the past and the future. It carries the traditional maple leaf design that Canadians had grown up with, and it also represents one of the last widely used generations of the coin before discontinuation. For collectors who appreciate history, holding a 1996 penny is like holding a small piece of Canadian heritage in your hand. That heritage, combined with the coin's potential collector value, is why so many people continue to search for these coins in coin shops, collections, and even in jars of old change at home. Now, let's talk about condition, because condition is critical when it comes to determining value. A 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin in heavily circulated condition might not seem worth much, but if you find one that is shiny, with no scratches, and preserved in near mint state, it can be worth far more than face value. Collectors are always looking for coins with sharp details, strong luster, and no wear. Some of the most valuable 1996 Canadian pennies are those found in brilliant uncirculated condition, often saved directly from mint sets or rolls. If you happen to come across one, you may be surprised at just how desirable it is to collectors. The 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin is also valuable in terms of its educational role. Many new collectors start their journey with pennies because they are accessible and easy to find. The 1996 penny, in particular, teaches us about Canadian minting history, the changes in metal composition, and the importance of condition in collecting. Even if you only have a single 1996 penny in your collection, it can be the beginning of a deeper interest in Canadian coins and numismatics in general. That's why collectors often say never to overlook the penny, because its value goes beyond money. It carries stories and lessons that connect people to the past. When we look at the bigger picture, the 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin is a symbol of value in unexpected places. Many people overlook small coins, but collectors know that every date and every year tells a different story. The 1996 penny may not be the rarest Canadian coin, but its value comes from history, nostalgia, varieties, and its place in the timeline of Canadian currency. If you've ever wondered whether a simple penny could be worth keeping, the 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin proves the answer is yes. So, the next time you come across a 1996 Canadian penny, don't dismiss it as just another cent. Instead, look at it closely, appreciate the design, check for condition, and remember that collectors consider it valuable. This coin continues to attract attention year after year, and its story is not only about money. It's about history, culture, and the hidden value of everyday objects. By keeping a 1996 Canadian 1-cent coin safe, you're preserving a small but meaningful part of Canadian history, and that makes it truly valuable. Next up, the 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin is a piece of Canadian history that collectors continue to talk about. At first, it may look like an ordinary penny, but when you take a closer look at its background, its design, and its role in Canadian currency, you begin to realize just how valuable this coin really is. In this video, we will explore the details, history, and hidden value of the 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin, and you will see why so many collectors are searching for it today. Stay with me all the way through, because you do not want to miss the important reasons why the 2000 Canadian penny deserves a place in any coin collection. The design of the 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin is both familiar and meaningful. On the obverse side, we see the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Dora de Pettere Hunt, which was used during this time period. On the reverse, you will find the iconic maple leaf design created by George Kruger Gray, which has been the proud symbol of the Canadian penny since 1937. The maple leaf is not just a symbol of Canada's natural beauty, but it is also a powerful national emblem. And in 2000, as Canada stepped into a new millennium, this small 1-cent coin carried that symbolism in millions of pockets. This connection between the everyday coin and the history of a country is what makes the 2000 Canadian penny stand out. When we think about why the 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin is valuable, we have to consider several factors. First is the historical importance of the year 2000. This was the year of the millennium, a major milestone in history. Any coin dated 2000 has a special significance because it marks the transition from one century to another. Collectors love coins from milestone years, and the 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin fits perfectly into this category. It might only be a penny, but its date alone makes it appealing and adds to its collectible value. Another reason this coin is valuable is its place in the timeline of Canadian pennies. The 1-cent coin was eventually discontinued in 2012, meaning that every penny minted before then is now part of a closed chapter in Canadian currency. The 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin is especially important because it represents the beginning of the final decade of the penny's existence. For many collectors, having this coin means holding on to a piece of the story before the penny disappeared forever. That historical link makes it much more than just a common coin. Collectors also focus on mintage, condition, and varieties. Millions of 2000 Canadian pennies were minted, but not all of them survived in good condition. Circulated examples are very common, but uncirculated and brilliant condition coins are much harder to find. If you have a 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin that still has its original shine, sharp details, and no scratches or wear, then you are holding a coin that collectors are willing to pay more for. Condition plays a huge role in determining value, and that is especially true for coins like the 2000 Canadian penny. We also need to talk about errors and varieties. Coins from the year 2000, like many other years, sometimes came with striking errors, doubling on the date or letters, and other unusual features caused during minting. These rare varieties are highly desirable because they stand out from the millions of regular strikes. A 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin with a unique mint error can be worth far more than its face value. Collectors are constantly checking their coins to see if they have one of these special varieties, and this is another reason why the 2000 Canadian penny is valuable. The materials used in Canadian 1-cent coins also matter to collectors. By the year 2000, Canada was already producing pennies using a plated composition, moving away from the traditional bronze that had been used for decades. This shift is interesting to numismatists because it reflects the economic changes of the time and the cost-saving measures that eventually led to the penny being discontinued. A 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin is part of that change, making it historically important for anyone who studies coinage and currency evolution. Think about the cultural and nostalgic value as well. For Canadians who grew up using pennies, the 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin brings back memories of everyday life. Saving coins, counting change, and the little maple leaf design that was always there. This nostalgia adds emotional value, which is another reason why collectors and even non-collectors hold on to coins like this. Owning a 2000 penny is like holding a small reminder of Canada's past, and for many people, that is something priceless. Condition, rarity, history, design, symbolism, and even nostalgia all combine to make the 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin valuable. Even if it seems like just a penny, it carries layers of meaning that increase its importance in the eyes of collectors. If you find one of these coins in your collection, make sure to look carefully at the details. Is it circulated or uncirculated? Does it have any errors or unusual markings? Is the shine still visible? Every detail can make a difference in determining its value. What truly makes the 2000 Canadian penny special is that it belongs to a moment in history that will never come again. The year 2000 marked the beginning of a new millennium, and every coin from that year carries that story. The Canadian 1-cent coin from 2000 is valuable not only because of its date, design, and condition, but also because it symbolizes the end of an era in Canadian currency. Holding onto this coin is like keeping a small piece of that history safe for the future. So, the next time you see a 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin, don't dismiss it as just another coin. Remember that it has collector value, historical value, and cultural value. This small piece of metal tells a big story, and collectors all over the world recognize its importance. The 2000 Canadian penny is valuable, and keeping it in your collection means you are preserving a part of Canadian heritage. That is what makes it such a coin worth keeping and appreciating. Next up, The 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin is one of the most fascinating modern Canadian pennies that continues to attract collectors, history lovers, and anyone curious about the story behind coins that seem ordinary but actually carry surprising value. At first glance, the 2003 Canadian penny might look like just another piece of change, but once you dig deeper into its details, history, and significance, you quickly see why it is considered valuable. In this video, we're going to look at every aspect of the 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin and why it deserves your attention. Make sure you stay until the end, because the 2003 Canadian penny has a story you should not miss. The obverse of the 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin features a very important change that makes it stand out. In 2003, Canada introduced a new effigy of Queen Elizabeth II designed by artist Susanna Blunt. This was the first portrait of the Queen without a crown on Canadian coins since the early years of her reign, and it marked a major change in Canadian coinage history. However, in 2003, there were actually two different obverse used, the older crown portrait by Dora de Petrie-Hunt and the brand new uncrowned effigy by Susanna Blunt. This means that the 2003 Canadian penny exists in two versions, and both are collectible. Having both portraits in the same year makes the 2003 1-cent coin extremely interesting and valuable to collectors. On the reverse, we still see the classic maple leaf twig design by George Kruger Gray, a design that had been in use since 1937. By 2003, this maple leaf had become an iconic Canadian symbol that represented tradition, growth, and national pride. For many collectors, the combination of the familiar maple leaf reverse with the major obverse change makes the 2003 penny an essential part of any Canadian coin collection. One of the reasons the 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin is valuable is because of this double portrait year. Collectors love varieties, and a year with two different obverse is always going to stand out. Some people specifically try to collect both 2003 pennies, the crowned queen and the uncrowned queen, because together they tell the story of change in Canadian coinage. If you have one or both of these coins, you are already holding something that collectors consider historically and numismatically important. Another factor that gives the 2003 Canadian penny value is its condition. Like all coins, condition plays a major role in determining worth. Circulated examples are common, but brilliant uncirculated coins, mint state examples, or coins taken directly from mint sets can command higher collector interest. The sharp details of the portrait, the shine of the metal, and the overall preservation make a big difference. A 2003 penny in top condition can be worth more than you might expect, especially when it is the rare version or has interesting characteristics. Collectors also watch closely for errors and varieties in the 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin. Minting errors such as doubling, die cracks, or striking issues are always more valuable than regular strikes. With two obverse types in use, there is also more room for small variations or transitional pieces to exist, and those are highly sought after. A 2003 Canadian penny with an error can bring much higher value than its face value, and this is why so many collectors keep a close eye on this year. The 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin is also part of the final years of the penny before its discontinuation in 2012. That alone gives it a special place in history. Every penny minted after the 1990s began to represent the closing chapter of Canada's 1-cent coin, and the 2003 penny stands out in this timeline because of the portrait transition. Collectors know that when a coin marks a change and also falls within the last decade of its circulation, it becomes even more valuable to preserve. When you think about the cultural value of the 2003 penny, it is also very meaningful. For Canadians, the penny was more than just money. It was a part of everyday life, part of childhood savings, part of small purchases, and part of national identity. The 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin connects people to those memories. For some, it reminds them of handling change before the penny was retired. For others, it represents a collectible piece of heritage. This emotional connection also adds to the coin's importance and value. It is important to realize that the 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin is not only valuable because of rarity or condition, it is valuable because it tells a story. The year 2003 is remembered in Canadian numismatics as the year the new effigy of the Queen appeared, and that makes it historic. Collectors today and in the future will always seek out coins from transitional years, and 2003 is one of the most significant in modern Canadian coinage. So, when you come across a 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin, take a closer look. Does it have the crown portrait by Dora de Petre Hunt, or the uncrowned portrait by Susanna Blunt? Is it circulated or uncirculated? Does it have sharp details, original shine, or maybe even an error? All of these factors can affect value, and all of them show why this coin is more than just a penny. The 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin is a reminder that small coins often carry the biggest stories. It is valuable for its design, its varieties, its place in history, and the memories it represents. Even though the penny is no longer used in Canada, the 2003 Canadian penny lives on in collections, and its importance continues to grow with time. Keeping this coin safe means preserving a piece of Canadian history, and that is why collectors and historians alike agree that the 2003 Canadian 1-cent coin is truly valuable. That wraps up everything you need to know about these valuable coins, and as you've seen, every detail makes a difference in history, rarity, and collector value. If you enjoyed learning about these coins and you want to keep discovering more hidden treasures in your pocket change, make sure you subscribe to my channel right now so you never miss another coin video. Also, if you haven't already, go back and check out my previous video on Kennedy half-dollar coins, because those coins are full of history and surprises that you definitely need to know about. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below about your own coin finds, and share this video with other collectors. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.